Well, and before we get to it too, because there's actually a lot there. I went through that interview and I actually listened to it like 3 different times, preparing for this. The first time just because it was caught my interest, and then the
God
second.
bless you if you could listen to that 3 times.
Well, I didn't listen to the whole thing 3 times, but I listened it really kind of. Ben Shapiro really gets into the questioning about God and whatnot in the last 40 minutes, and
Yes.
so I went through that and I listened, and I don't want to delve into it yet because there's a lot
Let's
there
go,
to
baby.
unpack.
I'm ready.
I
Come
know
on.
you are. I know, but I want to go back to those instances where you're talking to lay atheists, people
Okay.
who come to
All
you
right.
at work and they're like, "Carl, you're crazy. How do you believe in this God thing?" And you've told me some fascinating stories in the past about those conversations with atheists, and how do you approach it with them, and what do they say to you first, and what's their response when you give them your bit, so to speak, on the existence of God?
Well, unfortunately, I those experiences, while gratifying, maybe because you find out that there's not a lot of substance behind their pushback. I'm going to say in general, and I don't want to generalize, but a lot of the atheists that I've talked to, they have sound bites
Talking points.
that when you push them on those sound bites, there's really no substance. There's no substance behind it. So, for instance, I'm at Pete's Coffee, and I see a friend of a friend, and you say, "Hey, been to church?" And no, haven't seen you there. And the woman says, "Oh, I mean, right after me. Oh, you're a believer." So I said, "Hey, how are you? Good morning." You're a believer. And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" "Well, you believe in God." And I said, "So obviously you don't." And she said, "No, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of." So, okay, so I'm like, and I'm shocked that we're having this conversation because I make the comment that I go to church. And one facet of that discussion, I mean, it was sad for me because in one facet, I said, all right, let's take one element here, and this part of this will really tie back to what Sam Harris goes to. I'm going to say there's probably 4 big areas where atheist it continually comes up. The creation of the universe, cause and uncaused things. You're going to talk about the nature of evil and pain in the world. I'm going to say a lot of people don't believe that a good God would allow people to do bad things, and
Suffering, evil, free will. Isn't free will an issue in there as well?
yes, Sam Harris and others don't believe that. I'm going to say you can have purpose and meaning without God, and then no free will. And then I'm going to say the other thing: there is no. If you can't see it, you can't believe it. So the concept of revelation or any of that thing, it only if you can see it, you can't believe it. So with this one atheist, I said, okay. I said, do you? And I was trolling her. I said, okay, do you believe in the Big Bang? And blank look, and I don't know. So I said, okay. Well, I said even Stephen Hawking, who was an atheist and talked about the randomness, pretty much every scientist will say, okay, the universe had a beginning and there was a Big Bang. And I said, that is a huge problem if you're an atheist. I said, because that shows this thing had a beginning. And I said, so do you think nothing can cause something? And she goes, absolutely. I said, all right, well, let me ask you this. I go, what's more plausible? That something causes something or nothing causes something? She goes, they're equal. I said, okay, then if that's true, why don't rhinoceroses appear right here? Why can't things, right now, why isn't that continually happening? No answer, no response. So I said, if the universe, I said, let's assume, I said, so me, I said, I'm looking at what's more plausible, nothing or something. There's a first cause. And, with Sam Harris, he thinks we don't need, I want to go back to Sam Harris because, he
Well,
said,
it's the anchor of this conversation. So
right, I want to go back to that. And she goes, maybe something caused the universe. I said, but, she goes, well, there could be other universes. I said, absolutely. I said, but right now, we have no evidence for that. So you can put your belief in something we have no evidence of as long as it's not God. Well, okay, now she's in that spot. She goes, well, I'll grant this. Maybe there was something. Maybe there is a higher form of intelligence that created the universe. And I said, well, that would be God.
Right.
I know you don't like the word, but that's God. So, consistently, and then I asked her, like with another thing that happens is, the atheist viewpoint is, look, everything's random. The universe came together. Who we are, our consciousness, our ability to rationally think, is the result of just random forces in the universe. So I said this. I go, so if they've looked at the human genome, if it's got 3 billion characters that are put together that make up our internal software, give us all of that. I go, what are the odds of that? That it just came together randomly. I said, now here's me. I'm in a court. I'm trying to adjudicate a decision. How does the evidence weigh? And so I said, she goes, well, I don't know what you mean. I said, well, if I knock a box of alphabet cereal over and it says, hi, Jen, how are you this morning? I could, what is the likelihood of that happening? And it spells your name out. I go, how many times would you have to knock that box to have it spell your name and say, good morning, how are you? I go, well, the genetic code is far more sophisticated than that. And I said, I hear about evolution. And I said, there are all different types of evolution. I said, I'm not a fundamentalist. I don't disagree with evolution within species. But for you to say, there's that I came from a bird or an ape, there's no evidence of that yet. I do believe in evolution and the evolutionary processes. So I'm going to say a lot of these arguments, they really surface. They'll take what I call, the straw man. You believe in this. Another example, how can the Bible be true? And Sam Harris goes at length into that. He doesn't believe in revelation. People don't believe. And I said, well, I'm not a fundamentalist. I don't necessarily believe that the earth was created in 6 days. I don't think, what I'm going to say, the story of Genesis was not meant to be a biology or a physics book. It's an attempt by man to explain God. And that's all this is. And people want to make it, no, you have to go exactly by what it says and what it does. And so, I'll tell people, all right, on the 7th day, after God created the universe, I don't think he needed to rest. I don't think he had to take a nap, after he created the universe. So I don't see where you say, well, it didn't happen that way, therefore there can be no God. Mm. And with a lot of atheists, personally, what I think it is, when you bring God into your life, you're bringing a lot of constraints in terms of really how you should live, how you should lead your life. And a lot of the other atheists, I hear this is another argument. Most of all that's wrong in society has been caused by religion. And and I'm going to say, well, wait a minute, hold on. You know, God gets blame for what man does consistently. And then I just heard an atheist on the radio the other day. They said, all the best societies today are the ones that are atheist. And I'm like, well, hold on. China, you're going to put that as being better
Well,
than
you'd have to go back. I mean, you could even go back to the Soviet Union and say, you know, that was the best. North Korea is the best. I mean, look, how somebody they're pointing to the Scandinavian countries, I think,
Right.
when they say that. Right? They're pointing to Europe when they say that. And frankly, I'm not sure that Europe is the shining bastion of what's all great in this world right now. And certainly, if you really want to go to the extremes of China, North Korea, the Soviet Union, atheist, godless societies, I'm not quite sure they're doing that well.
Yeah, and I'm going to put forth that in a time of a crisis, all these countries that are so-called flourishing, if it comes down to a crisis, it's going to be every man for himself.
Yes.
You're going to see a tremendous change. But you're right. If you look at Pol Pot, and you look at
Cambodia,
Cambodian regimes, you look at Russia, you look at Stalin, all these civilizations, all these societies that were atheistic, I don't even see how you can possibly make the statement. Those are far better alternative to ones with Judeo-Christian ethics. And that which leads me to another one, going back to evolution. I consistently see that in the evolutionary process, we're evolving. And who we are today is a product of evolution. And I say to myself, okay, well, if that's true, and natural selection, then really Hitler had it right. And that the fact that we're going to care for the poor or take care of the disenfranchised and the marginalized, that's not an evolutionary trait, because my survival and flourishing is based on the strongest and the best continuing to survive and getting rid of everything else.
Yeah, extermination.
Extermination. So which is it? Is it evolution, or is it something else that's impacting that? And people continue to like to pick, what I'm going to say, the Judeo-Christian things versus some other form or fashion.